term tawarruw is derived from the word al-waq or al-waraqah, which means minted dirham or any silver that is issued to serve as a medium of exchange. Scholars invent the term tawarruw to describe someone who is under pressure to obtain al-warid or cash money. Technically, tawarruw is the purchase of a commodity on credit by the mutawarrik, who is a seeker of cash, and selling it to a person other than the initial seller, which means a third party for a lower price in cash. Actually, tawarruw is a sale contract whereby a buyer buys an asset from a seller on deferred payment and subsequently sells the assets to the third party for cash at a price less than the deferred price. This transaction is called tawarruw mainly because when the buyer purchases the asset on deferred terms, it is not the buyer's intention to utilize the benefit from the purchased asset, but to facilitate him to attain liquidity. Here are two dalils regarding tawarruw. First, in the Quran, Al-Baqarah verse 275. A'udhu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Ahallallahu al-bay'a wa harrama riba. Sadaqallahu al-azim. Means, but Allah has permitted trading and forbidden interest. This verse explains that Allah allows all forms of trading, which are buying and selling, except for any form of trading where there is a verse that forbids it. There is also the word al-bay', which includes all forms of trading, including tawarruw. Second, Al-Baqarah verse 282. A'udhu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu idza tadayantum bidaynin ila ajalin musamma faktubuh. Sadaqallahu al-azim. Means, O believers, when you contract a loan for a fixed period of time, commit it to writing. Tawarruw is one of the forms of buying and selling transaction and one of the forms of paying receivable that are included in the general meaning of the above verse.
A sale and purchase transaction is a contract, and each contract is meant for the pillars, which particular complementary requirement required for each pillar. Al-Tawarruw is an instrument created by combining numerous akad al-bay', which is buyer and selling. Al-Tawarruw has 5 pillars that must be present in order for this transaction to be complete. This transaction is invalid if it is incomplete or has less than 1 pillar. Among pillars of Al-Tawarruw, it is seller, the end buyer, mutawarrik, SIHAH, and communities. For seller, the end buyer and mutawarrik, that we call the contracting parties. For SIHAH, the contracts praising al-SIHAH, which is include the aspect of offer that we call ijab and accepted that we call kabul. And the last one is community or al-ma'qud alai, the contract's main focus. As can be seen, the pillars of al-tawarruw and al-bay' are the same. Some things that can be used as proof that al-tawarruw is actually an instrument that is manifested from a combination of several akad, al-bay', which is sale and purchase. Among them, the pillar of tawarruw such as seller, final buyer, and mutawarrik, which can be defined as al-mata'akidain, which refer to the seller and buyer in the pillar of al-bay'. And in al-bay' also have SIHAH and community. The condition of the community agreement, which is the topic of the al-tawarruw sale and buyer agreement, must meet the following requirement, such as the community must exist and be possessed by the seller at the moment the contract execute. Next, community can be transferred to the buyer. According to Shara, community can be used and appraised. Mal al-mutakawim. Commodity must be obvious to the customer in the term of nature, quantity, and price. The last one is, community must not clash with the contract's criteria and must adhere to Islamic law.
There are 2 types of tawarruw. First, classical tawarruw. Second, organized tawarruw.
Classical tawarruw, also known as tawarruw al-fardi, is a pure tawarruw whereby a buyer or mutawarrik buys a commodity from the first seller, which can be Islamic banking, on deferred terms and later sells it to another person or third party with the aims to get immediate cash or fulfilling the need for liquidity. When the buyer sells it, the commodity is in his hand and he has the choice to keep it or sells it in the future. In this formation, the third party has no direct connection with the first seller, and in such cases, the first seller of goods must not be linked with cash sales made by the buyer of goods after that. The views of the Hanafi, Shafi'i and Hanbali scholars see this tawarruk transaction as legal and based on Sharia principles, and was also accepted by a number of Sharia bodies. The second form of tawarruk is an organized tawarruk, also known as tawarruk al-munazam, which refers to the practice of tawarruk which is applied in Islamic financial system for financing purposes. It is defined as the transaction that which a buyer or mutawarik buys a commodity from a local or international market at a deferred price. This form of tawarruk is used in Islamic banking. The first seller to act as a representative or agent on behalf of the buyer to resell the commodity for cash. The mutawarik or buyer will receive the cash from the first seller to whom he owes the delayed price, and beforehand, the first seller must agree with the final buyer that he will purchase the commodity. The majority of scholars prohibit organized tawarruk due to its process, which is gaining money by money. However, in Malaysia, organized tawarruk is accepted by the member of the Sharia Advisory Council of the Central Bank of Malaysia.
Tawarruk is an Islamic finance product that has been offered by Islamic bank after its permissibility has been confirmed by fatwas and Islamic country resolution. Before it may be concluded as a valid transaction under Sharia, the basic requirement of a valid sale must be met. The first condition is the party involved must be qualified and mutually consent to enter into contract. In Islam, every sale and purchase must have an offer and accepted, also known as ijab and qabul, in order for the transaction to be Sharia compliant. By mutual agreement, it is permissible to acquire on credit in this transaction. Next, subject matter or sole good. The subject of the sale must exist at the moment of the transaction and be in the seller's possession at that time. Thus, what the seller does not own cannot be sold to the buyer. The existing subject matter is critical in ensuring that the sole good is free from defects or uncertainty. The purpose of this feature is to maintain a buyer-seller relationship in the transaction, even if it means accepting things that did not exist at the time of sale. Besides, the transfer of ownership of the commodities and the delivery of the goods also one of the conditions of tawarruk. The sale of goods refer to the formal transfer of ownership of product to the buyer in exchange for payment of a price that can be paid in cash, on credit, or in advance. The customer can purchase the good after ownership has been transferred and possession has occurred. For example, after the customer has signed a contract with the importer of the goods and has received confirmation of the importer's receipt of the good, as confirmation follows the rule of actual possession. This is because selling something before taking possession can lead to disagreements, particularly if the things are found to be substandard. If actual ownership is not visible, then constructive possession like based on clearance and confirmation will suffice. Lastly, the margin profit on the agreed upon purchase price must be mutually agreed upon both the buyer and the seller. The price cannot be increased once it has been agreed upon and deferred, unless the seller provides a rebate. Any undetermined price cannot be used as a basis for tawarruk since it creates the appearance of uncertainty, making tawarruk transaction illegal. Sharia has outlined the main conditions above in every selling transaction, including tawarruk. Those preconditions were made in the tawarruk transaction, but contemporary scholars have their own opinion on its legality based on another factor. Even if the basic criterion of the tawarruk transaction has been established in its application, the permissibility is limited, particularly for commercial activity. Another factor to evaluate is whether or not the transaction is Sharia compliant.
Next, the opinion of the scholar regarding tawarruk. There are three different opinions among them. This is because some of them say that tawarruk is valid, while some of them say that concept tawarruk does not comply with concept Sharia. There are three: macro, and neutral. First, macro, discipline. the opinion that tawarruk transactions are illegal because they are resembling by AINA, which is said to be haram because illah, riba. Next is makruh, disapprove. Second opinion that tawarruk is makruh, this is because it concept that almost the same as by AINA. And the third is neutral, permitted. Third opinion say it's permitted. This is because they are structure different between tawarruk and by AINA. They are different. Next, the scholar who support the tawarruk transaction valid passage from the Al-Quran that say Allah has permitted sale and purchase and forbidden usury. This demonstrates that all the common transactions are halal, except for sale and purchase, which are defined as haram in Al-Quran and Hadith. Therefore, some of the scholars allow tawarruk. This is because based on Hadith, Bukhari and Muslim. If all the rules are implemented correctly, tawarruk are useful method that can be applied.
Bank Islam Malaysia is the largest Islamic bank based in Malaysia. They started their operation in July 1983. BIMB being established to assist the financial needs of people in the country who has major of Muslim. The formation of Bank Islam in Malaysia is an effort to demonstrate the Islamic assimilation in Malaysia's economy shall not evoke any economic catastrophe. Bank Islam also had been launched by YAB Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad in July 1983. BIMB starting with 30 pioneering staff in their headquarters at the first floor of Complex Jemaah Haji at Subang, Selangor. As the leading of Islamic banking in Malaysia, BIMB bring unique perspective to the financial landscape with a commitment to nature, responsible growth and progress. BIMB also provides financial services in Sharia compliant card services and mobile banking. Let's look one of the services that have been provided by BIMB to their customers. One of the financial services of Sharia compliance that has been provided by BIMB is the tawarruk term. BIMB has provided two terms for tawarruk, which are term deposit I tawarruk TDTI and trade tawarruk I TTQI. TDTI guarantee the deposit account that allows the flexibility of managing funds according to the short or the long-term needs. It offers the attractive upfront profit rate and the on maturity that will able to earn the return based on the upfront profit rate contracted at the point of sale. TDTI provided the good benefit to their all clients, which is BIMB have a PIDM insurable. It is mean $250,000 RM will be protected by PIDM of the each depositor if anything will broke BIMB system. And then BIMB also have trade tawarruk I and also known as TTQI. This service is different from TDTI is because TTQI is not for deposit money but is for trade operation for their client to simply the affairs for their trade operation. Trade tawarruk I is a facility to the finance the purchase or import activities of goods against domestic trade or international trade. It is used to settle payments in a convenient manner and facilitates the cash flow management of purchases from abroad. The benefit from this service is facilitates convenient cash flow management of a business by having a fixed rate financing nature, and it also provide up to 100% financing of invoice value.
I will present about modus operandi of tawarruk in Bank Islam Malaysia. Bank Islam implement the tawarruk personal financing agreement. Based on the diagram, we can see there are 7 stages of tawarruk personal financing agreement. First of all, customer will apply the personal financing from the bank and submit the application form to the bank. Customer also will sign an offer to purchase agreement that has been completed by them. This is considered an agreement to complete the pillars of sirah that must exist in the sales and purchase agreement. Second stage, the bank will buy commodities from broker 1. To determine the actual amount of commodities to be purchased in the market, the bank will collect the application involving murabahah commodity transaction from 130 BIMB branch. After earning the commodity, in the third stage, the bank will immediately sell the commodity to the customer using murabahah. Through the OTP agreement that has been signed, the customer must purchase the commodity and the payment is made in monthly installment. Then, by using the concept of wakalah, the customer will appoint the bank as an agent to him to resell the commodity purchased. This procedure is important because of the fact that the customer does not want the commodity but wants the money from the sale of the commodity. Next stage, the bank as the agent to the customer will sell the commodity belonging to the customer at the purchase cost price to the broker too. After that, the proceeds of the sale of commodities obtained from broker 2 will be credited to the customer's account after the signing of the financial offer letter, which is considered as an acceptance of purchase for the process of completing the rukun sirah of sale and purchase. In the last stage, the customer will pay the selling price of the commodity in monthly installment until maturity. If the customer managed to settle the payment yearly, then the maturity period, a rebate will be given to the customer.
The conclusion: Tawarruw is a form of sale and purchase involving 3 or more parties. It is an alternative to buy al-AINA, which has caused a lot of controversy among Islamic scholars, especially from the Middle East. Although the principle of tawarruw is widely used in Islamic instrument, but the differences of opinion still arise among scholars in terms of its necessity. The tawarruw principle has been used in Islamic banking products in Malaysia, including personal financing products that offered by Bank Islamic Malaysia BERHAD. The application of the principle of tawarruw in Bank Islam personal financing has given a new perception to Islamic financing in Malaysia, which has been much disputed by outsiders, especially scholars from the Middle East.